Hi everyone, I'm Steph from Checkmate Geopolitics. Welcome. Before we begin, please note that all video and gameplay visuals in this video are purely illustrative. If you enjoy in-depth, real-time geopolitical analysis, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you never miss a critical update. Today, July 30th, 2025, the Pacific is on high alert. Right now, a massive earthquake of magnitude 8.8 has struck off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia's Far East. This is not just a natural disaster, it's a geopolitical event with consequences that may ripple across the globe. This earthquake is already being described as one of the most powerful in recent decades, and experts are calling it a Megathrust quake, which means the tectonic plates have shifted violently under the ocean floor, generating tsunami warnings. Across the Pacific Ocean. What does this mean for millions of people in Asia, the Americas, and even Europe? And why could this earthquake reshape security policies and alliances? Today, we'll break down what's happening, why it matters, and what might happen next. So let's dive in. First, what exactly is happening? At around 11:40 p.m. local time in Kamchatka, an earthquake of magnitude 8.8 struck at a depth of about 19 kilometers beneath the seabed. The epicenter was located near Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, a remote but strategically important city in Russia's Far East. This was a shallow focus earthquake, and shallow quakes are the most dangerous because they transfer more energy to the surface and to the ocean. Within minutes, tsunami warnings were issued for Japan, Hawaii, the U.S. West Coast, Canada's Pacific coastline, and several island nations scattered across the Pacific Ocean. In Kamchatka itself, waves up to 4 meters high have already hit. Parts of the Kuril Islands, flooding ports, sweeping vessels from their moorings, and damaging fish processing facilities. To understand why this is happening, let's talk about the Pacific Ring of Fire. This is a massive horseshoe-shaped zone that wraps around the Pacific Ocean. It is the most seismically active region on Earth, responsible for about 90% of the world's strongest earthquakes and home to 75% of active volcanoes. Kamchatka sits right on one of the most volatile parts of this zone, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. Here, the Pacific Plate is colliding with and sliding underneath the Okhotsk Plate, creating a megathrust fault. These faults are the source of the planet's most destructive earthquakes. Historically, this area has produced catastrophic quakes. In 1952, a magnitude 9.0 earthquake hit this region, generating a massive tsunami that killed over 2,300 people. Even earlier, in 1737 and 1841, earthquakes estimated to exceed magnitude 9 shook this same trench, producing tsunamis as high as 15 to 18 meters. These are not rare accidents. They are recurring events in a geological cycle that happens roughly every 50 to 80 years. That means what's happening today was inevitable and could even be a precursor to Pihoto, something bigger in the future. Now, let's focus on what is unfolding right now. So far, no deaths have been officially confirmed in Russia, but there are injuries and structural damage is reported in multiple areas. In Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky, buildings shook violently and a kindergarten sustained serious damage. In Severokurilsk, waves swept through the port and inland streets, flooding warehouses and residential areas. Medics have shared reports of performing emergency surgeries during aftershocks, operating while the ground beneath them was still trembling. Power outages have affected thousands, and communication in remote villages has gone dark. Across the Pacific, the ripple effect is massive. Japan has issued evacuation orders for more than 900,000 people, especially in Hokkaido and the Tohoku region. The government has shut down several nuclear facilities as a precautionary measure, an action that immediately reminds us of the Fukushima disaster in 2011. which followed a magnitude 9.0 earthquake and tsunami. Hawaii has reported waves around 1.7 meters, and California and Oregon have seen small but noticeable surges of about half a meter. Even as far as Chile and Peru, coastal authorities have issued alerts and ordered evacuations in low-lying areas. In some Pacific islands, evacuation is extremely challenging due to limited infrastructure, which means lives are at severe risk if the tsunami impact grows stronger. Now, why does this earthquake matter beyond the immediate danger? First, let's think about the global economy. The Pacific is the lifeblood of global trade. Major shipping routes run through these waters, carrying everything from electronics and raw materials to oil and natural gas. When ports are shut down even briefly, it disrupts supply chains, spikes shipping costs, and can even affect stock markets in the US and Europe. Today's quake has already forced the closure of several Russian ports, and Japan has suspended some maritime traffic as a precaution. Insurance companies and energy firms are monitoring the situation closely because damages could run into billions of dollars. Second, the security implications are huge. Kamchatka is not just any remote region of Russia, it's home to some of the country's most critical military assets, including submarine bases and long-range missile sites. When an earthquake of this magnitude hits, it tests military readiness. How fast can forces mobilize for disaster response without compromising national security? Meanwhile, the U.S. Pacific Command and Japanese Self-Defense Forces are working together through the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, sharing data in real time. And here's an interesting twist. China has just announced that it is offering humanitarian assistance to Russia and other affected nations. On the surface, that looks like goodwill, but in geopolitics, every move has a motive. This could be an opportunity for Beijing to score diplomatic points or expand its influence in the region. What about Europe and the US? For Washington, this event underscores the importance of its Pacific alliances. If the US wants to maintain stability in Asia, it must be ready not just for military threats but for natural disasters that can destabilize entire governments. For the European Union, the stakes are different but still serious. Europe depends on Pacific trade routes for goods, energy, and raw materials. Any long-term disruption in Asia reverberates in European markets. Let's zoom out and look at the historical perspective again. Today's quake is a stark reminder of the planet's natural power and our vulnerability. Think of the 2011 Japan earthquake and tsunami. It killed nearly 20,000 people and caused the Fukushima nuclear meltdown, leading to one of the worst environmental disasters in history. Or the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, triggered by a magnitude 9.1 earthquake, which killed more than 230,000 people across multiple countries. Compared to those catastrophes, the death toll from today's Kamchatka quake may remain lower, but the geopolitical impact could be even greater because of where it struck and when. Now, here's the big question. Are we prepared for what comes next? Scientists warn that an earthquake of this size often produces large aftershocks, some nearly as strong as the main quake. These could strike in the coming hours, days, or even weeks. If one of those aftershocks happens closer to populated areas, the damage could be catastrophic. Beyond that, this event highlights a glaring vulnerability in many Pacific nations: coastal infrastructure. Ports, highways, power plants, and even data cables that keep the internet running are all exposed. In the United States, the West Coast, especially Oregon and Washington, faces a similar risk from the Cascadia subduction zone. A major quake there could rival or even exceed what Kamchatka is experiencing now, potentially causing thousands of deaths and crippling the U.S. economy for months. So, what should governments do? First, They need to invest in resilient infrastructure buildings that can withstand shaking, seawalls to protect against tsunamis, and rapid evacuation systems. Second, they must improve real-time coordination. Today's warnings worked fairly well, but in some places, people had less than 15 minutes to reach safety. That's not enough when you live on a small island or in a crowded coastal city. Third, this is about education. People need to know what to do when the ground shakes drop. Cover, hold on, and move to higher ground immediately if you're near the coast. These simple steps save lives. As for geopolitics, expect to see a lot of high-level phone calls in the next 24 hours. The US, Japan, and Australia will likely issue joint statements on disaster response. Russia may accept international aid, or it might reject it to project self-sufficiency. China will position itself as a benevolent power offering help, but with strategic calculations in mind. In short, today's quake will ripple far beyond Kamchatka's shores. Before we wrap up, let's reflect on the bigger picture. Events like this remind us that nature is the ultimate wild card in global affairs. Politicians can negotiate, armies can mobilize, economies can adapt, but when the Earth moves, all bets are off. The question isn't if another Megathrust earthquake will strike the Pacific, it's when, and whether we'll be ready when it does. Thank you for watching Checkmate Geopolitics. If you found this analysis useful, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Your support allows us to keep bringing you real-time analysis on global events, security challenges, and the forces shaping our world. I'm Steph, and I'll see you in the next update. Stay safe, stay informed, and remember, geopolitics never sleeps.